My name is Chris Pupke. I work at Chesapeake Wildlife Heritage. I'm also on the board of directors and president of Queen Anne's Conservation Association, and I live in Centerville. My mother's side of the family is from Queen Anne's County, going all the way back, and I just fell in love with the place growing up. I don't think that there's one particular moment that made me say I got to be here, but just always had a sense that this is where I wanted to be. It gave me some concern seeing some of the places that I grew up loving kind of slowly being built up. Was disconcerting. I remember one time going to my Uncle Edgar's farm, Edgar Bryan, down on Bennett Point Road, and walking across the fields and down to the Wye River. And just across the river from Uncle Edgar's farms, a new development, and it struck me as being so foreign to see that new development here on the Eastern Shore that I felt like I was walking back in time in the farm field, and yet all of a sudden there it was, suburbia right across the river. Struck me as incongruent with what I was expecting. From a conservation standpoint, I will agitate for conservation. I'll make no apologies for that. But I also recognize that economic development is very important. When you're looking at, say, wildlife, like at Chesapeake Wildlife Heritage, we're very concerned about wildlife populations and ensuring we've got wildlife habitat. That doesn't necessarily mean that we can't have farming in the landscape at all. We're not anti-farming. When you look at my role at Queen Anne's Conservation in kind of a land preservation effort, that doesn't mean we can't have development on the Eastern Shore at all. The question is scale and location. Are they going in the right place? When Rouse passed away 10-15 years ago, Tom Horton wrote a piece saying, well, maybe we should have let Rouse win at Wye Island. Maybe that would have been a good idea, a good demonstration for ways to grow around the Eastern Shore, Queen Anne's County. Interesting to debate it. I'm not sure I agree with it, given the location, but it is certainly an interesting prospect. And it's important for conservationists not to lose sight that there is a need for economic development, and that the other side is not necessarily agitating all for self-interest. We want to be careful that we don't make development decisions based solely on the economic self-interest of a few individuals, but we need to look at the economic benefits to the entire county and the region. Queen Anne's Conservation, I think, too often gets pigeonholed as an anti-growth organization, and we're not. So we have supported a number of projects. We do not oppose everything. I don't think that we certainly have the resources to oppose everything. We have the resources to oppose what we need to, what we think are important, but we will not oppose everything. We have supported development projects in the county in the past, projects that are on water and sewer, are in growth areas, are things that we think are very good for the county. When you look at our record, I think if you find projects around Centerville, you'll find that we've not objected to anything there, whether that be Northbrook or Symphony Village up on the other side of town. That's, I think, appropriate places to grow with that. We're not saying let's not have a future. We're not saying stop jobs. We're saying, well, what kind of jobs can we bring in here? Unfortunately, I think in Queen Anne's County, the economic development concept is relegated to building houses, which is not sustainable long term. That creates a deficit in the budget for the county that we'll never dig out of if we don't work on it now. We need to figure out how to attract good businesses. We need to figure out how to build our homes in locations that are appropriate for it. That does not mean sprawl development out in the farm fields. Development in farm areas has a very negative impact on our county budget. Farming is a very good tax base, provides more income in taxes than it uses in county services. It's directly the converse when you look at sprawl developments. These large 1, 2, 3, 5 acre lot type developments out yonder in Hinder actually end up using more county services than they provide in county taxes. The general idea is that with an adequate public facilities ordinance, you want to have developers pay for the costs that that development will have on the county. For example, if you build 100 homes, you might have 200 kids enter the school system, and you've got to make sure that you've got school capacity for those kids. You might have to improve the roadways, have a traffic light installed, that kind of thing. What they have done in Queen Anne's County recently is take an excellent, adequate public facilities ordinance and kind of dumbed it down a little bit at the cost of increasing school crowding, which has a detrimental effect on our children's education, which has a negative impact on making Queen Anne's County such a great place to live. It will permit increased traffic on our roads, making our roads, which are already dangerous, even more dangerous. And it will do so by allowing the taxpayers to subsidize the folks that are speculating on the real estate and trying to build more homes in the area. Absolutely. APFO, Adequate Public Facilities Ordinance, is certainly a longer term kind of thing. But it has immediate consequences that we must deal with now. We want to not allow this legislation to move forward. We're working with the PTA in particular around the county to try and protect our schools. Maryland state schools are amongst the best, depending on the study, might be the best schools in the country. And when you look in Maryland public schools, Queen Anne's County is ranked right up there at the top. It's one of the great draws for people to move into the county is our school system. No, I think it was relatively obvious that when certain interests acquire a property, it will be converted from open space to development in short order. I think it's pretty easy to follow that. Privately, we will hear farmers who often are more in favor of property rights talk about being a little uncomfortable with some of the development going on in the area and how they don't support it. But they are reluctant to come out publicly and say something. I think privately we've had conversations with developers who say, yeah, that's not such a good idea, that one. But they are reluctant to come out publicly and oppose things.